Welcome to DIYEasyCrafts.com. On this video, we're going to take a look at making a special knife for a retired NYPD officer. It's basically an NYPD themed tactical blade. Now this knife is actually made from a 1095 high carbon steel blank, which is available from DIYEasyCrafts.com. This video is the first part of a two-part series. I tried to do it on one video, it just ended up being a little bit too long. The first step in the process is going to be to scribe railroad tracks or center lines on the blade. I have to apologize. The first time I listed this little center scribe, I actually listed it or gave credit to the wrong manufacturer. This scribe is actually available on eBay from seller K-Spirit9. So if you just go on eBay and search for that, it's an excellent tool. It does a fantastic job of scribing center lines, or parallel lines, or railroad tracks as they're called. These lines are extremely important for getting good bevels on a knife, especially with the tilt table system that I use. Use a little Dykem blue, scribe those two parallel railroad track lines, and then basically ready to head over to the 2x72 grinder. This 2x72 is an Oregon Blade Maker machine. I bought the basic chassis from Oregon Blade Maker. I bought the 2 horsepower motor separately and added that, as well as a variable speed controller. And then my friend Jason Northgard made up one of his tilt table work rests. And this is really what makes grinding bevels relatively easy. You basically just set that tilt table at the angle that you want the bevel, and then you hold the blank firmly or flat against that tilt table, and with a little upward pressure, you start to grind into the material. And the whole time you're doing that, you're watching very closely those scribed center lines. And basically, if you accurately grind to each one of those lines from one side and from the other, then you're going to end up with very, very nice straight bevels. What's neat about this is that you can hog out the majority of the material with a coarse grit belt, which of course you build up less heat, you're able to move material a lot faster. It doesn't matter whether you work on the tip or work on different portions of the blade separately, as long as the final pass is kind of fluid from left to right or from right to left, depending on which side you're working on, you're going to end up with a nice result. And again, really just using my thumb or my thumbs to hold a little bit of pressure, holding that blank against or flat against that tilt table, and then very carefully watching those scribed lines. If I'm a little bit away from the line up by the tip, I can spend a little bit more time at the tip and bring that grind right into that scribed line. There's a bunch of different ways of grinding bevels. People use basically angle irons held at an angle by a bolt on a 90-degree table, and they slide those along. I just find that this tilt table gives me a little bit more control, and the end result is a bevel that actually follows the contour of the blade. It might take a few minutes more to do the bevels with this tilt table, but for me anyway, the end result is a lot better. And of course, a lot of people freehand or free grind. More power to them. I've just never been good at that. Now I wanted to add bevels to the top of the blade, a false edge. Basically just flip the knife around and you can easily do the top. And that took maybe 4 or 5 minutes per side to do the bevels. Now I'm going to move on to metal etching. So I used a Silhouette Cameo vinyl cutting machine. I cut out a silhouette of New York City skyline. I attached that self-adhesive vinyl to the blade after cleaning it with alcohol wipes. And then I'm just using a 12-volt car battery charger set at 12 volts, 2 amps. I've got the positive lead clipped onto the blank, or the knife blank, and I've got the negative lead clipped onto a wad of gauze that gets dipped into a mixture of warm salt water as the electrolyte. And basically I'm going to hold that gauze against every section that I want etched for about 15 to 20 seconds at a time, and I'm going to repeat that process so that every section gets etched for a minute and a half to 2 minutes. I want this knife to have a very, very deep etching that's going to hold up to polishing after the etch as well as polishing after the heat treating. You don't want to hold that gauze in position for really more than 20 seconds. I just always get scared that the heat will build up and the self-adhesive vinyl will lose its adhesion. So I do it 20 seconds max at a time, then I move down the blade and I just repeat the process. Once it's all done, you can wipe away all of that crud that's built up and you get a feel for what it's going to look like. If you're happy with that, then just peel the vinyl. And that's basically what it looks like. It does have to get polished. Usually I just hit that with a 400 grit paper real quick. I did a separate etching for the letters NYPD. And then on part 2, I'm actually going to bring this blade over to my nephew's shop and try to laser etch this gentleman's shield number onto the blade as well. And that etching would have been too small. The letters would have been too small for me to do the way that I do it with the Cameo and the self-adhesive vinyl. So this blade now is ready for heat treating. Now I have a little propane forge. It's a 2-burner forge. It was made by Devil Forge. You can look them up at devil-forge.com. Beautiful little machine. It's a new addition to my shop. Borrowed a set of tongs. I still have to make a set of tongs for myself. I borrowed these from my friend Jason. And this forge heats up knives within a couple of minutes. Nice even heat. I'm actually only using one of the burners most of the time. I find that if I have both burners on, the tip of the knife gets a little bit too hot. One of the tricks that I learned is, you really, especially with this 1095, you want to bring it up to heat, which is non-magnetic, and then you want to hold it at that temperature for a while, almost a minute. So what you can do is you can take the blade out of the direct flame, hold it off to the side of the forge. It will retain the heat, but it won't overheat. And I have a magnet stuck on the side of the forge. I just, test it and make sure it's non-magnetic. Once you see the color of the material at non-magnetic, then it's very easy to repeat that. The blade gets quenched in quenching oil. That makes that 1095 nice and hard. It then also goes through a tempering process. It goes in an oven, 375 for 2 hours, and then I let it cool overnight without opening the oven door. After the heat treating, you do have to clean off all that carbonization from the blade so that you can see the etching again. And this is one of the reasons I really wanted to have a really deep etch on this blade. We're sanding off or cleaning off all of the high parts, but you want that etched area to still be nice and deep and dark. I'm really kind of liking the way that this blade is coming out so far. Now I have to clean up the bevels after heat treating. For this, I'm using a Scotch-Brite type 2x72 belt on that same Oregon belt sander. It's a neat belt. It polishes very, very quickly. You can adjust the speed on the grinder, and that really determines how much material you're going to take off and how fast you're going to take off that material with this Scotch-Brite type belt. But just a few passes cleans up those bevels nicely. So with this particular project, I wanted to mount Carvex black and white American flag scales with blue liners. The problem is they weren't in stock. So while I'm waiting for those scales to come, um, my friend Greg Ferraro came over and he brought his Tormac, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, wet stone sharpening machine. And he put a beautiful razor sharp edge on the blade for me. I'm going to have to be real careful when I go to mount the scales. So this blade is basically finished. He sharpened it with the wet stone. On the other side, there's actually a leather strapping wheel. It knocks off the edge. In part 2, as soon as that scale material comes, I'll be mounting the handles, as well as going to my nephew's shop and hopefully doing some laser etching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I ask you to please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. By all means, check us out on Facebook. Facebook group called Knives and Knife Making. You can just go on Facebook and search for Knives and Knife Making. Join the group and post some images of your own builds. Please also check us out at DIYeasycrafts.com. Thank you very much.